Welcome to episode 57 of In Touch with iOS, a podcast that talks about iPhone, iPad, Apple Watch, Apple TV, and related technologies, plus tips, apps, and gear. I am your host, Dave Ginsburg, and my returning guest this week is Mr. Guy Serle from the MyMac.com podcast. How you doing, Guy?
Hello there, Dave. How are you doing today?
I just knew that Mr. Magoo was going to come out with the beginning of that show.
I just figured out that I could do a Mr. Magoo. So, I had to just kind of get ready for it. Magoo, you've done it again.
Oh, no more. That's enough. Okay,
I'll be good.
Be good. So, we're here today to talk about all things iOS, and we got an action-packed episode packed here today. A good amount of news we're going to talk about, as well as we've got a couple topics I threw out there today. I wanted to talk about buying an iPhone, how to choose the right iPhone. I want to kind of discuss that a little bit. I think a guy would have some good insights on that, as well as we'll have a little bit of a discussion. I'm going to use the word lightly about Apple services because some services are good, some are we'll question. And I got a pack filled with some tips here this week. So let's dig right in and get into the news here. First story that caught my eye was it looks like iTunes is gonna go away. Should we cheer? Yay! It's on 9 to 5 Mac with music for Mac OS coming soon. They're gonna come up with an app just for music. The legacy iTunes features will probably more than likely disappear, or they will spread to iOS. Well, yeah, iOS does have its music app, and it has its podcast app. We'll talk about the podcast app in just a minute. But based on the reporting they're talking about, it looks like they're expecting versions that'll be separated on the Mac, but will translate over to the iPhone and iPad too. Is this a long time coming? Because I think iTunes was really a bloated piece of software, honestly.
Yeah, pretty much. iTunes probably outlived its usefulness when the iPod disappeared. The problem that I think a lot of people are going to have, though it's becoming less and less of an issue, is how to manage media on your iOS devices without an all-encompassing piece of software that will handle that. So if you have, does that mean that when you plug your, assuming that you do this still, because a lot of people don't bother anymore, iOS devices are becoming, for some people, their only computing device.
Right.
But if you have a Mac or even a Windows PC and you plug in your iPhone or you plug in your iPad and you want to put Guardians of the Galaxy or whatever, how does that mean you have to go to the Movies app to do that? Does it mean you now have to go to the Music app to put on a Foo Fighters album and to manage podcasts? Because it's the problem is they've taken out a lot of the functionality of iTunes, but they haven't really put it into iOS in such a way that it's easy to manage. You have all these different apps within iOS to try to manage your digital content, and it's just not easy. Well, instead of, what we don't need really anymore is iTunes for the Mac, but it sounds to me that we're coming to the point where we need something like iTunes for iOS.
And I guess the question will be too, beyond the music, beyond the podcast, beyond the content. There's still a lot of people out there that like backing up their devices with iTunes. They don't want to back it up with the iCloud anymore, or with the iCloud. I do all my backups.
A lot of times you can't. You can't back it up to iCloud because Apple, in their infinite wisdom, only gives you 5 gigabytes of space.
Right, which I think that's a whole nother debate. They need to come up with some. They need to come up with some more. There's more space for people. That's default. I mean, come on, the space doesn't cost them that much. Why couldn't they increase it maybe to 10 to 15 gigabytes? I mean, come on. I mean, there's companies giving away 20 gigabytes
with photos. I don't think photos counts toward your 5 gigabytes.
Right.
Is that how that works?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then why not have your iOS backups that also don't count toward whatever storage plan you have?
And that's where the problem is. Well, you got third-party companies, third-party software like iMazing. I think, and that's a great piece of software. I think that's going to be more and more of a tool that they'll take a look at. I've talked about that before. iMazing.com. It's a great product. Yeah, that's the other thing you got to be concerned about. What's going to happen when people are so used to doing their backups via iTunes. It'd be interesting to see what Apple does with that. So, moving on, like I said, we were going to talk about is the podcast app. Again, in 9 to 5 Mac, they talked about Apple Podcast now supports web playback, episode pages, and more. So now what they've done is they've added an option which is kind of cool. They really never were able to do that before on the Apple page, the website that you go to for the actual podcast, and be able to listen to it on the web if you so choose. So they added that, and then they also put some nice more features as far as episode pages and differences there, and a lot of other things, which I thought was pretty cool. I don't know what your thoughts on that is.
Spotify, Google, podcast. Excuse me. Yeah. Sorry.
That's the thing. Spotify. That's the other thing too. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Spotify
all
is
buying
up
all these other
companies.
aggregators. All these other aggregators have had this functionality built into it. Now, this was, and this is a classic case, and it's not the first time that this has happened, of Apple creating a space online, and then letting third parties kind of take it over. It's kind of the reverse Sherlock effect, if you know what that phrase means. Yeah. But Apple was essentially, there's a reason why they're called podcasts, is because it all kind of started with the iPod, and little by little, other aggregators have come in with more functionality, and iTunes has become, besides being a repository for RSS feeds, that's basically all it is now.
Yeah. So it's good that they're staying competitive with that. There's lots of podcast aggregators out there, and I've done reviews on them. We'll talk about that in just a bit here too as well. It's good to see Apple keeps going, because I was never a huge fan of Apple's podcast app, but I tell you what, us as podcasters, you look at the analytics of who's listening and where they're listening from. I got a podcast. 56% of my listeners are using the Apple Podcast app, so it's pretty hard to not resist looking at that.
Considering that this is an iOS show, that shouldn't come as too big of a shock, though.
No, I'm talking about my horse racing podcast, which is not. And,
that's true. That's true. Yeah,
and I think there's still that kind of gives me kind of a comparison between this show and my other show, which is non-tech, and you definitely see that there's still a lot of people out there using the Apple Podcast app as their primary source of aggregating their podcasts. So. Check that out if you so do use
actually,
that. So.
That's an interesting topic. Before we get off this, for people who don't follow this kind of thing, remember that Apple has worldwide somewhere between 10 to 15% of the overall smartphone market, with Android having 85%. But then you read about a statistic like this where podcasts, whether they're tech related or not, overwhelmingly are going through Apple servers, going to Apple devices, and Android just kind of seems like an also-ran.
It's all over the place. So, but no.
Sorry, I didn't mean to hijack.
No, not at all. It's a good discussion about
Segue,
that and understanding. Android users are out there too. They're not listening to the show, but they are out there, and they do listen to podcasts too. So, next topic, YouTube TV. Are you a subscriber to YouTube TV?
It's weird. I was just looking at that this morning. Not just YouTube, but a couple of the other cord cutting services. Yeah. And something that, because I've actually been in the process over the last 4 or 5 days of writing something for mymac.com in relation to cutting the cord and services of this type. And they're kind of doing the things, because I haven't looked at it in a while, but they're now kind of doing the things that in the article I'm saying they need to do, which is get local channels in. You put in your zip code and you have all the local channels that you had before. And I think we're getting to the point where cable companies basically get stripped down to being internet service providers.
Right.
And and people have a wide variety of different services. You've got YouTube, you've got Hulu, you've got Oh God, there's like 6 or 7 of them now that are
I
major
mean,
players.
CBS All Access. I pay for that.
Yeah,
I know it's annoying. It's annoying, but I pay for it because I want to see Star Trek Discovery. I mean, but it's really annoying, and sometimes you want to boycott and do other things beyond buying their service, but it's inevitable. That's what's ended up happening. Well, the topic was going to be the article was this is in Mac Rumors. Well, I just want to bring it into the discussion of the article. YouTube TV is going to increase their price from the intro price, which I actually had the plan. It was $35 a month, which was a freaking bargain for what it does. It's going to go up to $49.99 a month, so that's a pretty good big increase. It went from 35 to 40, now it's 49. But if you have it billed through Apple, you have to pay an extra $5 for that convenience, which, I mean, that'd be pretty silly that you'd be paying for it through Apple. But the big thing is they are getting more networks, and that's what kind of my struggle was with YouTube TV. What my thrill is of YouTube TV is I can watch it anywhere. It's not like my cable service. Yeah. My cable, like Comcast, I have the Comcast X1. Yeah, it's great. X1's a great technology, works great. I can't watch my local channels wherever I am. With YouTube TV, if I'm anywhere in the Chicago area where I live, I can watch it. If I'm in Las Vegas, I'm still going to get the local channels, but it switches over to the Las Vegas local channels. It knows because it's based on where I'm online on the internet. So all these channels are available. They just now added the Discovery channels as part of this increase. So rightfully so. They need to be able to cover that cost and
Sure.
But to have this type of service in your pocket all the time, I love it. And it's going to make me think twice. Once my contract runs out with Comcast. Do I really want to do that anymore? And, of course, got to get the wife on board with it, but that's the challenge. But the thing is, it change. I got her to change when we used to use TiVo. We had TiVo. We loved TiVo. TiVo was great, but TiVo was not innovating. And then it was getting very expensive too. You had to buy, the boxes and all that stuff. And it wasn't mobile friendly for a long time. Then they came late into the game for mobility because I wanted to be able to watch my shows on my iPad and you couldn't do it. And, now you can watch it anywhere. So it's really great. But you're talking about the other services like Sling TV, Hulu, right. DirecTV Now, which was garbage. I mean, I subscribed for a couple of months because they had that deal where you got a free Apple TV. So I'll check it out for 3 months and then cancel it right away because it's AT&T. I'm not a fan of AT&T at all. And now they've got bought Time Warner. They're going to make HBO even worse, but that's a whole other story. Well,
the thing that astounds me is that some of the other companies that are starting to get into this are the cellular companies, Sprint and T-Mobile and a few of the other ones are now also talking about and especially when you consider that we are 1 to 2 years away from ubiquitous 5G coverage, which will give you, in theory, 80 to 100 up and down, which is more than fast enough to do all of those things, as well as doing things like what we're doing right here, doing live casts and podcasts and all the rest of these things. And, these are things that you couldn't do with 3G and 4G and LTE and all these other ones because the bandwidth just wasn't there.
Right.
And now cellular companies are coming and say, well, cable companies kind of dropped the ball here with their little monopolies everywhere. And see that this is the important bit. The reason why cable costs so much is because there was really no competition.
No competition at all. Right.
And now that people are cutting the cord, you've got 10 to 20 different providers that have roughly the same service, and they have to compete not only on quality, but they also have to compete on price.
Right. So it really is a decent service. I would check it out. It's going to go up, but it might be something worth your while. I mean, it incorporates a lot of things with YouTube, and YouTube has its premium service, which I pay for too. You know what? I think it's worth it for not having to watch all those darn commercials on your YouTube videos. So you can add that service plus music. So, I mean,
so annoying.
It is annoying. So, but it costs money, unfortunately. But you know what? I don't mind it because I enjoy YouTube. I think most of us do. I got to pay a little bit for it, and you get to enjoy it. So, with it being on your mobile device, with it being on an iPhone or an iPad, I have the XS Max. I be able to enjoy a lot of the videos on that really large screen,
Sure.
and not necessarily have to watch it on my iPad. But when it is on my iPad, oh, it's a joy. It really is, and just being able just to sit down and watch it. I mean, I have the 11-inch iPad, so it's iPad Pro, so really great way to enjoy it. So. Other news that caught my eye. This was on Ars Technica. Netflix is ending its AirPlay support on iOS, and it's an ongoing souring of Apple relationship with Netflix. And I'm kind of not surprised about this. It kind of is a bummer because we all love Netflix. I enjoy it. I mean, granted, yeah, I could watch Netflix on my iPad with the app. There's no problem with that, but it was nice to be able to AirPlay it over to your TV if you so choose. But you know what? Netflix is everywhere. I mean, it's incorporated in the X1 with Comcast. It's incorporated with all the smart TVs nowadays. You can sign into your app. It's on the Apple TV. It's on a Roku. I mean, it's everywhere. I mean, Netflix was very smart when it came to putting their services on every device imaginable. So I don't think anybody's going to be too terribly disappointed about this, but I think it's just more of a, you know what, Apple, here it is to you for us. We don't want we don't want it anymore, especially when they announced AirPlay where it's going to be available on smart TVs too. So
yeah,
I don't know what you thought.
Honestly, I think AirPlay is technology that has outlived its usefulness, like iTunes. Where we have devices that are big enough to watch the things that we want to watch. And like you said, most of the digital services that people, most people are interested in, Hulu and Netflix, and even, the movie services, HBO, Showtime, and so forth. Yeah. Besides having apps on your iOS devices, you have them on your Roku, you have them on your Apple TV, you have them as built into your smart TVs. And AirPlay I cannot tell you the last time I used AirPlay was to quickly throw a YouTube video that I thought was great to show to my wife. And that was probably sometime last year.
Yeah, and then YouTube is on all those devices we just mentioned too. Besides that, so no, I agree. Yeah, so I don't think anybody's going to be crying too much about it. So, no. Other article. This was on Mac Rumors, and I think this was around most of the news sites. Record 83% of surveyed USA teens own an iPhone. I'm not surprised about this at all because I'm one that always looks to see what phones people have when I'm walking by. I say, oh look, iPhone, Android, iPhone. It's always I'm always pretty much seeing people have iPhones, but it was an interesting stat to see that it's an all-time high here in the fall of last year because it had dropped a little bit, but the popularity is still a good sign for Apple among teens because that'll bring them in to stick with it when they're an adult. So I'm not surprised.
An interesting statistic is Apple has somewhere in the neighborhood of an 85% retention rate when it comes to when people want to get a new phone. If they already have an iPhone, at least 85% of them are going to buy another one. Yeah. So when analysts come out and talk about, there was a dip in iPhone sales from this year to the next, it's like, oh, shut up, because they're going to turn around and 2 to 3 years later, all of these people that bought the latest iPhone last year when he had this great big gap. Actually, a prime example of this is the iPhone 6 and 6 Plus. Because people had been begging Apple for a large phone for a long time. And when the 6 came out, you can look at the sales statistics between the 5S and the 6, and it's not even close. It was this incredibly huge jump. Right. And then when the 6S came out and the 7 came out, they were all like, well, look, there wasn't nearly as many phones sold as when the 6. It's like, damn it, come on, man. They just got all of these people to buy new phones because they were bigger, and they're not going to buy another iPhone, most of them anyway, until their 6s or their 6Ss run out. So, I'm sorry, analysts drive me completely insane, and I could use other words, but I won't. I don't understand this obsession with iPhone sales from analysts, and it's probably a good. I am actually delighted that Apple is no longer releasing those numbers.
Yeah,
because it makes no sense. All they're doing is throwing gas on the fire.
No, it's definitely smart. So anyway, it's no surprise to us iPhone fans here that the numbers are up there. So, but all right. And then the last thing I want to mention is my friends at iPhone Life magazine. I did have editor-in-chief Donna Cleveland on the show a number of weeks ago. Shout out to her and the team with the magazine. They offered me to write an article for the magazine, and
nice.
It's due to be out in the wild here any day now. I had the advanced copy of it. So and
is that a monthly or a quarterly?
They come out quarterly, so they're only published every during the season. So this is the summer issue. I wish it was summer already, and it's already the summer issue. So, but the name of the article is "Find Your Favorite Podcast App: 6 Top Picks with Features for Every Listener." And I did a review of about 6 different podcast apps, including Apple's podcast app and Downcast, Procast. I've talked about all these before. Overcast, Castro, and Outcast. Outcast is the app that's used for the Apple Watch too. So
right.
I'll once it comes out, I'll be sharing it on social media and such. You'll be able to find it there, as well as you should go to your local newsstand and pick up a copy of the issue, because it's iPhone Life magazine. I know not a lot of people know the magazines. Sometimes it's funny. I'm showing it to a lot of my peers at work today, and just like, I've never heard of that magazine before, but it's been around for a long time. So I kind of give a shout out to them, and I definitely try to promote it. So we'll check that out. So
is that the same publisher that used to have Mac Life magazine?
No, Mac Life is Future. This was the one that it was Thaddeus Computing was the previous one that did the Pocket PC.
Right.
Magazine, okay. and yeah, it's those guys. And so based in Iowa. So that's some good friends out there in Iowa. So hopefully everybody's listening. So, but I will definitely share that out once it's available for everybody. Excuse me. So a couple topics what I wanted to chat about this time around is I want to talk a little bit about buying an iPhone. You know, both of us have purchased iPhones, and you have an iPhone, I have an iPhone, and everybody has a different view of what they want as far as in an iPhone. Of course, me, as everybody's has known that they've listened to this show, is I'm crazy and get every new iPhone there is every year, and most people are not the normal person like I am. So I don't tend to recommend that if you're not like that and enjoy the latest technology. The nice thing is Apple does have a great trade-in program with their buyback of the phone. So you just pay for it for a year and then you trade it in. So you're basically renting the phone for a year. So when the new iPhone comes out in October, November probably is when it'll be. You know me, I'll be talking about it, and I'll have the new one. So I currently have the XS Max, and if you look at
nice.
It's a beautiful phone. I really love it. I'm very happy with it, and it is a big phone, and that's the thing. Everybody has to think about what's the best for them. Some people love this big phone because they love the screen, and that's what's great about it. But the great thing about what Apple has done is in their line they still offer a lot of these other phones. So the other phone that's out there, iPhone that's out there, is the XR. XRs are great, inexpensive, but has a lot of packed features. I think the iPhone 10 is still out there in the wild. You could buy the 10, and it's on Apple's. I have a view of their customer scenario form from being in the Apple user group, so I kind of use that information here. So then you got the 8 and 8 Plus. I know you have that 8 Plus, right?
Yeah, I've got the 8 Plus, yeah.
And then there's the 7 Plus is still out there, and then the 6S and 6S Plus is still out there. Interesting to see when that drops off soon with the discussions coming in June with the new version of iOS and where the products are going to go. So if you look across the lines of all of those phones, I mean, if you look at this, there's 6 different models you can choose from. Actually, 7 if you count the XS. What do you really want in a phone? Now, what made you choose the iPhone 8 at the time? Did you buy the iPhone 8 when the 10 was already out, or was it before?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And if everybody remembers, I'll remind everybody because I got nothing but hell about it. I did buy the iPhone 8, and Warren Sklar, our buddy, in Back to the Future, did rip me a new one, and it was well deserved by me buying the iPhone 8, saying, "Oh no, I don't need the 10. It's so overpriced, and it's not going to be worth it," and this and that. And then 2 months later, I gave in and
got a 10.
I got a 10 and took a loss on the 8, so the 8 Plus. So live and learn, but I should know better that I'm passionate enough about iPhone technology that I need to go to the top of the line. So, but the iPhone 8 Plus, you've been very happy with it, right? I mean, it's got a lot of great design, and if you want an all glass design, the phone is designed with all glass. It's got the Retina HD display. It's True Tone. It's got advanced cameras. So you go with cameras. Yep. Do you take a lot of pictures with it?
Well, it's my primary camera, as is
most
people's smartphones these days. The other thing that drew me to it over the 10 at the time was that it still had the headphone port,
right,
which I have since because I have the I have the AirPods now, and I have a few other Bluetooth based earphone, whatever, and it's the headphone port isn't nearly as important to me as I thought it was going to be when I bought the 8 a year and a half ago, 2 years ago.
Right.
I look at it now, and if I was looking to buy a phone today, what would I want in it? Well, the headphone port wouldn't be that big of a deal.
Right.
I don't really care currently about Qi charging.
Okay, but you have it.
I have it with the 8, but it's not like it's one of those features. It's like, oh, it doesn't have Qi charging. I'm not going to get it, as compared to when I just bought a car, and one of the main criteria of my buying a car was having CarPlay, which is how I ended up with a Kia Soul, which is weird because I'm like twice the size of this car. But actually, no. You and I drove around.
Yes, you gave me right
when I was in Chicago for MacStock last year.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I think having a decent camera, what I would like to see them do across the board is get rid of the Lightning port and go strictly USB-C. Across the board, just get rid of it, because at this point, all you're really doing is delaying the inevitable.
You're right. I mean, just like the way that when the 30 pin connector with that thing was just giant. I think back to that thing, because I had every iPhone since basically the 3S and higher. So I only iPhone I never owned was the first gen. Probably was better off because it was expensive and
not that great.
Not that great. So
yeah.
But I had the 3GS going all the way up to the current model. So I've gone through a lot of phones. I've seen the iPhone evolve, and when the 30 pin connector finally went away, I think it was the 4S was the last one, and went right to the 5.
Yeah.
That was huge. It was great. Oh, this is awesome. But people.
Many people. And the same kind of thing with the headphone port. What was it, 2 years ago when Apple got rid of the headphone port?
The 10,
everybody was like, oh my God, I can't believe it. But people are just going to drop the iPhone and blah, blah. And what happened? Nobody really dropped the iPhone because of a headphone port. Right. And all the other smartphone manufacturers are basically now dropping the headphone port. Right. Because Bluetooth is more than capable of getting the job done. Bluetooth earphones, for the most part, are lasting anywhere from 4 to 10 hours on a single charge, which is this is the same kind of stupid argument that I heard when the Apple Watch first came out. It's like, oh, you won't be able to wear it all day. It'll run out of juice. It's like, shut up. Go hug an analyst because you sound like an idiot. Just let it go.
Apple Watch, 72%. I've had it on all day. I mean,
I don't have mine on at the moment, but typically when I get home from work, I take, my watch is on the charger. I put it on my wrist when I go to work. Yeah. I get home, I get ready for bed at 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night, though closer to 9 o'clock night these days. And my watch still has 50 to 70% on it, and it's a Series 3. Yep, and it's the same thing with like so many of these earbuds. Most of the time when I'm using the phone in such a way that I'm consuming content, I'm typically in the car going to work. So I'm listening to podcasts or music or what have you. And that's all being done through either Bluetooth or directly through the lightning port.
Right. So I look at the other models now. If someone wanted to buy the 7 or the 6 series, you know what? They're great little phones. I mean, the 7 is cheap. It's $500. You could buy it outright. If you don't want to have the payment plan through, whether it be through Apple or through the carrier, you might have for $400 or $500 that you want to put down and just get a good simple phone. The 7 and 7 Plus is a great phone.
And you're looking at 2 to 3 years of OS updates.
Yeah, the 7 will be around for sure. The 7. The 7 is got the iconic design. It's got the headphone jack. It's got a powerful and advanced camera, and it's fine. The 6S is probably going to be more somebody who's looking for a more bargain phone, and that's going to be maybe an entry level iPhone user. If you're an entry level type person, you don't want to spend a ton of dough. I think you can get the 6S for probably $400. I haven't looked at what
or less,
depending.
Yeah.
And it's got all these phones have the 12 megapixel camera. You have the video. You have HDR. You have the FaceTime HD on your front facing camera. The 6, 7, and 8 are Touch ID. So if you're that's the other big complaint. I think a lot of people are still not liking the fact that there's no home button. That they don't like the swipe up on a 10S and the 10S.
Well, it's like saying I don't want to use this mouse because it's not a single button mouse. You get used to the technology that you have, and eventually it's evolve or die, frankly. Right. You can't hang on to something like a 4S just because it has some feature that you really well. I picked up for about $200 an iPhone SE. Okay. And eventually I will probably be giving it. It was refurbed. I'll probably give it to my wife, who is still on a 5S. So but she likes,
because it'll be faster,
and she likes the smaller form factor.
Yeah.
And see, this is the thing. At this point, Apple, in my opinion, should drop the 6, should drop the 7. You keep the 8, you keep the 10. And you keep the 10S, 10X,
10R, 10S. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you've got the latest model of the 10, you've got the 10R, and then you have the 8 for people that still want Touch ID. Yeah. And then you come out with a smaller phone that has at least the capabilities of the 8, but with a smaller form factor. That is the one gaping hole.
Right.
In Apple's lineup. I mean, right now they're all these megaphones. They're all these huge ass phones, and it's like not everybody wants 4.7 inches of phone. Right. They were happier with 3.5 to 4 inches.
And I went from the 8 Plus to the 10, which I should have went from the 7 Plus to the 10. The 10 is a 5.8 inch screen, but the thing is, the 10R and the 10S are all full screens. They don't have borders. Whereas the 8 and the 7 do. So you're getting a much fuller screen. The chip between the 10 and the 8 is exactly the same. You have the A11 Bionic chip that's in both the 10 and the 8 and 8 Plus. So there was absolutely no difference. Capable. Very capable phones, those two. 7 and 6, again, it's all bargains. If you want something low end and you're not so overly concerned about processing speed, the 7 has an A10 Fusion chip, which is perfectly fine. The 6 a little older and slower. So I'll be honest.
Yeah, I think that was the A9.
That was the A9 chip, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So then you go up to the 10S and the 10S Max and then 10R. Which one do you go in that line? Well, a lot of people I've been talking to, co-workers, I say, "Oh yeah, I just went with the 10R. I don't want to spend a lot of money," because they're selling it for $400 to $500 on a deal if you trade in your old phone. Yeah. So Apple is giving some pretty fair trading value with that.
And that OLED screen is very nice.
The OLED screen's perfectly fine. The 10S is got the higher dynamic screen, so that's really the only difference. And
the camera is
and the camera's different too. It has dual 12 megapixel cameras, where it's just a 12 megapixel camera, but they both have portrait mode, which everybody's pretty excited about having that feature. So, so take a look at it in that sense. How important is that to you? And it's not. I mean, they're very comparable. I talked about it on the last show about dual SIM. You have a dual SIM capability on both the 10S Max, and 10R, so you can have dual services on your phone. As I talked about last week, I switched to the eSIM with T-Mobile. So now when I travel anywhere, I can get a SIM from. I'm going to be going to Italy in June.
Oh, nice.
So I can take if I decide to so choose, I can get my SIM slot's empty. I can just go and say, hey, let me just get a SIM from Italy, and I can have two lines if necessary. So, but T-Mobile's got some good coverage. So,
and that'll get rid of any overage and exactly. Roaming charges.
Yeah, and T-Mobile's got a very good plan, and they're very good on the international travel. So I think they give you like free texting and
and that is something that you definitely want to look into if you're going overseas.
Yeah, free texting, and then they're also giving. I think it's a 3G data that's included in your plan, which is pretty awesome of them. So I can't tell you how happy I am. I switched away from AT&T to T-Mobile. They've been just great. I
did that a couple of years ago.
Yeah, they're absolute great carrier. I love John Leisure. He's just a fun guy. I
love his stuff on Twitter.
Oh, it's just he's great. He does his Slow Cooker Sunday. They give away the MLB at Bat app every year for free. You get to watch baseball if you're a baseball fan for free every year. And
does Chicago have a baseball team?
Yes, they do. Does the Washington have one either?
Yeah, well, they didn't for a long time, but now they finally do.
So that anyway, off the topic there, but I hope that gave listeners a little bit of insights to what to do when you come up with the phone. I get that question asked so many times. I figured this would be a great opportunity to review some of the phones with you tonight and today, and get insights from both of us. So, anything else you want us to add before we move on, Guy?
No, I think I'm pretty good.
All right, good. All right, so let's move on. And I just closed my doc. I didn't mean to
don't do that. You closed your show notes?
Yeah, how can I do such a thing?
Yeah, I noticed. I saw it because I have a couple of weird prequel Grease things in there. And it said, Dave Ginsburg has left. It's like, wait a second. These are your show notes, dude.
I'm back now. All right. So the second topic I wanted to bring up today was the Apple services that were announced. We kind of talked about it in the last couple shows about the different services, but now that the dust has settled a little bit, I just kind of wanted to get Guy's opinion as well as have a bit of a discussion for what Apple has coming, what is already here. We're going to talk about the News app a little bit more. I know I talked about it a bit in the last couple shows, but I think it's important. It's a great service. It's got growing pains, but we'll talk about that in a second. But let's start first with the arcade. We talked about this on Mac to the Future a little bit. There was an article about this, and again, I said I wasn't a gamer, but I don't know. It really is going to depend on what they offer and how much they're going to charge. They're going to have, as you go on Apple's website, they say play over 100 groundbreaking new games. So it's going to be a lot of augmented reality. I think it's going to make people want to play these games. And it's already got a couple games already listed here. Looks like Lego Brawls. That's going to be an interesting game. And Hot Lava. Okay, here we go. And again, it's like I said, I'm not much of a gamer here. But, the thing was they announced all this. Got to try to get everybody excited about this. But they didn't tell you when it's being released. It's coming this fall. How much is it going to be?
We don't know.
They never said a word about it.
No, there was a lot of blank spaces in their services announcements for the it's Showtime that they just did. As far as arcade goes, I am a little bit of an iOS gamer, and there's a number of games that I really, really enjoy that I use almost every day. SimCity, Robot Wants Kitty. Oh yeah, Robot Wants Kitty. The problem with SimCity though is that it is, it was a relatively inexpensive game to buy, which kind of surprised me when I first bought it, and then I saw the catch: in-app purchases. Right. So you get, with all these in-app purchases, you get kind of steered toward, okay, well, you could do this really cool thing. Oh, we're sorry, you don't have enough mana, you don't have enough gas, you don't have enough of this, you don't have enough. But hey, you can get all that for this low payment right here. And it's annoying because it kills the flow of the game. And the one thing that I'm kind of looking forward to with arcade is the death of in-app purchases. Yeah. And I know there's probably going to be some publishers that are just going to fall right off the face of the earth because they don't know how to make a game without in-app purchases.
Right.
So they have to rely on making a really good game that a lot of people that are using iOS devices and the Apple TV and the Mac, these are games that people want to play, because if people don't play them, they don't get paid.
Right.
So you've got to come up with some good ideas. You've got to come up with ways to entice people to play your game. And so that's really going to be the question. Can these publishers that have, can they wean themselves off of the in-app purchases? I almost said a bad word there, of using in-app purchases to not so much supplement their income, but to be their income. Right. So can they stop doing that? And I guess we'll have to wait and see. The other thing that could kill arcade is whether or not Apple can entice other large gaming companies. And you'll notice that there wasn't any word from Microsoft. There really wasn't any word from Nintendo. There wasn't any word from Sony over having some of their games also on this platform, which comes as absolutely no surprise, I think, to anybody.
Yeah, it's still new. So anyway, that's arcade. Not much else to say about it. We'll see. It's going to be interesting to see in the fall. What we'll be talking about at that time to see what it all is about. The second service that was talked about was the Apple credit card. This is Apple Card. I want it.
I do.
I have the Barclays card now, so I was always a happy Apple credit card customer. So, but I want that card. I'm just looking at the picture. It's like, God, I want the card, the physical card.
They had me at laser etched. When I saw that laser come down, it was like, your name here is like, oh, give me the card. I'm sorry, it's got 48,000% interest. No, don't care. Just give me the card. Bad. It will cost $14 billion per year. I don't care.
Yeah, no, it won't be that bad.
No,
but the cool thing about it is it's going to be integrated into your phone and your iPhone. And so when you make purchases, and I'm already doing that now with the Apple Wallet with the cards I already have. It's incorporated with the cash card, so you can keep cash in there. It'll show your balance. It'll be easy to manage your bill. It'll be easy to pay it. I mean, why wouldn't you want to be the card you want to use for everything?
Also, your rewards.
The rewards
will all be there for you to see it anytime you want.
Yeah, the rewards is great because they'll be giving you percents back, and you'll get it right away. So you don't have to wait. Like right now with the Barclays card, I got it set to $100 before I get my Apple Store rewards card. But in this case, no, each time you charge something, it's going to pay you back the following month, and there's no fees, no hidden ones. It's backed by Goldman Sachs, which is pretty big bank. I've been impressed that they jumped on board with this, so it's going to be interesting to see. They say this is going to happen in the summer, and they said there's no gimmicks, and I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be.
I just want that card.
One of the services I was pretty pleased of what they announced. So. And then we'll lead into this. Is the other one is the news app and the TV app. Let's talk a little bit about TV Plus. Let's be brief. I don't want to talk too much about this, other than the fact it was like an extravaganza during the announcement.
So boring.
You got all the sneaks of. There's already on here. Get a sneak peek and previews of the shows with Jennifer Aniston.
Sort of.
And there's the discussion with Steven Spielberg, and then Oprah, of course. She's here. Oh gosh, I'm just looking at the videos on their site. So it's going to be interesting to see where that goes. Original content, that's great. They attempted it last time, but it was a very poor attempt with the Revenge of the Apps or whatever the hell that
and then
show was. That show was so bad.
The car app, interviewing people.
They have they got Carpool Karaoke, which they just basically licensed away, licensed as part
from somebody else,
James Corden from the Late Late Show. So they really hadn't done a lot of exciting things, but. So it'll be seen. I think there's much else we can say about it. Again, like you said, it's just was quite a spectacle.
Here's the thing. You've got Netflix and Hulu and other services like CBS All Access creating original content. Right. But these are all companies that have a history of creating new content. Apple has no history here.
Right.
So, instead of trying so hard to get everything Apple branded, they should just go to content creators and say, as part of the not so much the fee, but one of the rewards of doing a show exclusively for Apple is also to get your name out there and the name of the company that is they don't necessarily need to have the Apple brand on it. It can be like you're being featured through our service, but it's your content, and we let everybody know that. So this is great advertising for you, as well as helping us too. So, but right now I'm not hearing a whole lot about that. The other thing is, if they're going to roll this out worldwide, well, you can't put out a comedy show about a U.S.-centric morning news show with Jennifer Aniston and have somebody in Germany give a crap about it.
Just like, we watch UK shows. Sometimes UK shows they take off in the United States. One of my favorite ones ever was from many years ago. If you ever watched it, the IT Crowd. That was the UK show, but it was just absolutely hilarious. Well, of course, they tried to translate that show into a U.S. show, and it failed miserably. They had a pilot. It was, oh my God, it was horrible.
Well, they actually had the guy that played Moss on it.
Yeah, they had the guy. Yeah, the Moss was on there, but the rest of the show was god awful.
Was it? I don't think I ever saw it.
Yeah, you didn't miss anything. The pilot never was released. NBC watched it and said, we're dumping this, and then of
this
course
isn't working.
Then of course it leaked out on the internet, and then people got to watch it not too long ago. But
actually, if you want to see something kind of interesting, look up the original pilot for The Big Bang Theory.
Oh yeah, I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, it's not like what it was when it was actually released.
And 12 years later. So, anyway, that's TV. And then the news app. I talked about this a number of shows already, but I just really am very impressed with this app. I mean, it has some growing pains. It does have some things that need to be improved. I agree, but I think with the amount of magazines and information that's available on this app, and it's only $9.99 a month. Not terribly expensive, and I'm hoping more and more newspapers come on board, including I would hope the Washington Post would come around. I mean, that's a great paper. The New York Times. I know Apple tried really hard to try to get them on board, but it just didn't happen.
They won't for a while. They're like the Metallica of print newspapers. They have spent many years developing their own online subscription service. And the fact, they just don't want to hand over a lot of that subscription money to Apple, number one. Number two, part of what makes it so lucrative for them is the fact that they get all the data from the people that subscribe to it. Whereas Apple's like, yeah, you know what? We're not going to give you that. So, we will give you money based on the number of people that read your content. And they're like, no, that's not good enough. We need to know who they are so that we can market to them. And, and this is one of the things that Apple pushed over and over and over again with this latest event. And, I look at it as I was seeing it, I was pissed off at first, not so much about that, but just that the whole event just did not flow very well. Yeah. But every single time that I saw it come up on screen talking about how, Apple's privacy standards are such that, they're not going to sell you out to other people. I wanted to stand up and applaud because there's just too much of that now. And I was, do you listen to the Mac and Forth show with Carl Madden?
No, I don't.
He's another guy from the UK. He talks about these things, how privacy to him, he doesn't think that people really give a damn for the most part. So they've gotten so used to giving away all of their information on Facebook and with Google that it's just not a thing for them. So they just don't seem to care. And I don't understand that attitude. To me, it's very important to me. And it's weird because being a public figure like you and I are with podcasts, and again, this isn't like, oh, we're such big stars because we do podcasts. That's not what this is. That's not what this is about.
Far from it.
But when you do podcasts, you're putting yourself out there, and everything that you do, especially people that either listen or watch the content that you create, they're paying attention.
Yeah.
So you don't get a lot of the leeway, and you don't have the anonymity that a lot of other people do. So privacy to me is very important, because I put enough of myself out there as it is now.
Yeah, we both do. So anyway,
and my name is James Cameron, by the way.
So. I thought so.
All right.
So with the news app, I'll kind of lead into a couple tips. One of them that caught my eye was, first off, whenever you go into the news app and you go into News Plus, I love how you can just browse the catalog, and then you tap the button, you go from A to M, you scroll through the magazines and look to see if one that catches your eye. You tap it, and then you can download the latest or look at the latest issue. If you tap the title at the top, it will bring up all the past issues, because that was one of the things that's kind of confusing. I think they need to fix that. So if you tap the title, then I can scroll through, and it goes back like a year of all the past issues. You also can tap the heart, which would favorite it, so then it'll be one of your favorite magazines. Or you can tap the not favorite, then it won't show up in your list when it comes up that way. One thing I did find, and this has been on a lot of the sites out there, but it is a really cool trick that people found. The Wall Street Journal, the big push was, Wall Street Journal's on the news app, which is great, News Plus. You can read most of their content. They have a paywall. They still want people to pay for the extensive part of the service. So not all articles are on there. So what you can do is, you can go on your iOS device, whether it be your iPad or your iPhone, and you go look at an article. And if, let's say, you decide to you read it, and it says, you got to be signed in to read this. Well, you can go into the style sheet and press the up arrow, and you can scroll through the style sheet in the second row, and then say read open in news from that article. So when I tap that and put open in news, what happens is it opens into the news app, and voila, you get to read the article. So you don't necessarily have to have a subscription with the Wall Street Journal. I even tried it with the Chicago Tribune, and it works with them as well, and the Los Angeles Times. So those are a couple of newspapers that are already out there. So there is going to be ways around the content and being able to get around that stuff. Have you used the news app at all? Have you tried playing with it?
I have played with a little bit, not the News Plus app, but just the regular news app. And it's much. Here's the thing about the news app. You get out of it what you put into it. Right. So if you just start it up and you use its default settings, you probably aren't going to see a whole lot of what it is that you want to see. But if you take just a little bit of time and say, okay, well, here are some of my interests. Here are some of the magazines or newspapers that I'm interested in. You'll find that Apple's curation process is not bad. It's not great, but it's not bad. And you'll get a lot more out of it if you put just a little bit more time into it. And this isn't even talking about the paid service.
Yeah.
So yeah, I find the news app to be very interesting. Now, would I be willing to pay for it? I don't know.
Well, they got a free trial, so you can try it for a month.
Yeah, here's the thing. We got recently, my wife and I got, as a thank you, 2 meals from one of those, I won't say what the service is, one of those services that send you the entire meals. Mm-hmm. And in order to get those 2 free meals, my wife had to give them a credit card and all this other crap. And then they make it very, very difficult to unsubscribe. And I found the CBS All Access was kind of pulling this same thing. Yeah. A free service should be free, and you should be getting notifications as to, like, you have 3 or 4 days left before the free part of it expires. You should be getting notifications on your computer and emails and everything else going, okay, understand that you are coming up to the cliff of your free part of the service, and if you don't cancel before then, it's going to cost you money. But they don't. Most companies don't do this, including Apple. Apple's
good. I mean, because I've canceled my subscriptions. It's never been a problem. But no, I understand your resistance. Yeah. I mean, you've been through some bad stuff. So
yeah, but apparently resistance is futile.
This is true. All right. So with all the time we have left here, I wanted to hit on a couple tips here beyond the news plus here. Were you aware you use your AirPods, right? And you love them like I do. Do you know you can go into the settings and actually make changes to where you tap on the AirPod? And the way to do that is if you go into the Bluetooth and you'll see your AirPods listed as one of the Bluetooth devices. You tap the little I, which is the information button here, and you can go through here and actually make changes to double tap. So if you go in here, it shows the name of the AirPods. So of course I name it with my name on it. I'm assuming you did as well. But you also go into that setting and change the double tap on AirPod, the left or the right. So you could set it for Siri, you could set it for play or pause, next track, previous track, or you could turn it off completely. So because sometimes people don't want to deal with it, and then they touch it sometimes and they just don't like it. I know the new versions of the AirPods, you can say, "Hey, you." That you woman there, and it will.
Hey, that name.
Hey, that name, and it will trigger it automatically because the old version, which I still have, surprisingly, I have not upgraded. I'm not going to upgrade because I think the AirPods are fine for what they do. People are saying that the AirPods are a little faster connection times and such. That's fine. I'll deal with it. But anyway,
it's not like I've sat there, put them in my ears, and gone, "Oh, come on! I want to hear music now."
And you can also change the mic setting too if you go down to the bottom and make changes if you want it to. It'll be automatic setting, or you can make it the left or the right AirPod, whichever you so choose. So if anybody didn't know that in your AirPods, you do have ways of customizing a change in there. Other thing I wanted to talk about a little bit was, I don't know if anybody was aware of this. You use the 3D touch on a lot of your apps at all, Di? 3D touch?
Actually, I really don't. It's the same kind of thing with multi-apps on the screens. I just haven't used it that much.
Well, the cool thing with this tip is a lot of us use folders, and I mean, I've seen some people that's all they have are folders. I've gotten really bad and just let apps float out, and I've got 7-8 pages now. So, but I used to be all the time. I would always put everything in folders. But the cool thing with folders is if you look at folders, like I have a folder here with all my social media accounts, and there's some notifications from Twitter. So if I tap and hold the folder, it'll bring up the 3D touch to where it tells me, it brings up just the app that has a notification, so I can quickly get to it. So then I tap Twitter, and then it's going to bring me in there, so then I can take a look at all the notifications that are popped up. So another tip there. And then the last tip I wanted to throw out there was, and I know you're a big Pages user because you do your show notes in Pages all the time. Pages have you ever tried this feature, using Pages as a teleprompter on your iPad? I just happened to glance down and I saw that because I'm in the process right now of putting the finishing touches on a script that's related to the MaxDoc conference and Expo. Yeah, exactly.
And
perfect for it.
Yeah. And I was just looking at that earlier tonight on how I could use my iPad, because I moved everything, not so much into Pages, but I moved it into Dropbox. And the reason why I did that was it's kind of hard to explain without giving away the secret of what it is I'm trying to do. But there are certain audio files that I need to have playing in order to do what it is that I'm trying to do. And it was easier to set that up through Dropbox. So I'm only doing it in one application instead of trying to switch between Pages and an audio app to get those things happening at the same time.
Yeah. So what you do is you actually tap the 3 dots on the top right in Pages. This is on the iPad. And then you have a choice here, presenter mode. You tap it. It becomes a black screen. You then tap the A's at the top right, and then if you notice, there's a turn on for auto scroll. You turn the auto scroll on, and then you tap it, and then it starts scrolling. That is so cool. So now you can have this iPad.
Really?
Yeah, and now it's auto scrolling. I'll show you how it's looking on the camera as you see me here. That was the notes from yesterday's show, and it's just scrolling through and.
Those are some great words. Who wrote those words?
There were some good words that were written there. But this is just like a teleprompter. This is so cool.
That is cool.
Yeah, I didn't even know this feature. So check it out. This is in Pages on the iPad. I haven't tried it on the iPhone, but I don't think the iPhone would be as effective as the iPad would be with this.
Okay, well, screen. Having seen that, here's an app idea.
All right.
That same functionality, but you can control it from your iPhone. So you're looking at the iPad across the room,
like this.
And you're without looking at your phone, you're controlling the screen on your iPad as far as the words scrolling up and down.
Yep. So there's a few of our tips. The show is just, I can't believe the time has just flown by. But before we leave, I have one thing I want to talk about. There's an app that I wanted to mention. The app is called Glimpse. It's GLYMPSE. Are you familiar with this app at all?
No, I am not.
What it is it's an app that allows you to track where somebody is for a brief amount of time. Unlike Find My Friends, where it's either where everybody is and where or you don't.
Yes or no, right?
Well, my good friend and our good friend Barry Folk. I just saw him the other day, and shout out to Barry. And he's been using this app for a while, and I just keep forgetting to do it. So he was coming to meet me, and he sent that to me. So I got to see in real time where he was driving as he was approaching where we were. So it's just a fast, free way just to share your real time location via GPS. You can set it for a time limit, like 30 minutes or 20 minutes or wherever. It isn't going to track you all the time. And just a quick way of doing it. You can do it with your coworkers, your friends, your family. There's no sign up. It doesn't cost anything. It's absolutely free. Check that one out. I think it was a great app that Barry was using, and I wanted to give it out there. I know it's been around for a few years. I haven't seen a ton of updates on it. I don't know if it hasn't been updated in quite a few months, but that's okay. It's still current.
Does that give like notifications as you get closer?
Yes. Yeah.
That is so cool.
You can turn on the notifications. Yep.
Oh, that is really neat.
So check it out.
I like that.
It's in the show notes, Glimpse, and you share your location. So with that, I wanted to talk a little bit about MacStock. We won't go too crazy because I've been going crazy about MacStock. But you know what? I am crazy about MacStock because we both love MacStock.
We do.
MacStock 2019.com is the website. Links in the show notes. I'm speaking again this year. This is my 5th year. I can't believe 5 years. I'm very excited about that. You've spoken, I think, all 5 years as well, doing in various capacities. This year, you're going to do the My Mac game show.
Yeah. Last year and this year, I'm not heading a particular topic, right. Though I do not so much this year, unless Mike needs me to. Right. But next year, I would like to have a session.
Okay. Well, make sure
I talk a lot about podcasting and audio.
I watched your the one you did on the first year. I rewatched that. That's out on the MacStock YouTube.
Yeah, I was using.
Yeah, that was fun.
What was that? What is it's not Pages, it's not Numbers. Keynote. Yeah, I was using Keynote, but I had all of my animations
the transitions were going.
Yeah, that was funny. Basically, I was like, okay, now I'm going to start this animation about bringing Gaz on stage. I turn around, it was already done, and it was like, oh well, okay, that worked out well.
Well, anyway, we'd love to have you come out. The event is on July 27th, 28th. We have a blast, a lot of great networking. David Sparks is going to be there. Chuck Joyner is going to be there. Allison Sheridan. All my friends that come on and as guests, a lot of them are going to be there. All the speakers are announced. So you go to the website macstock2019.com. You'll be able to see everybody who's listed that's going to be speaking. David Sparks will be doing his 500th episode for the Mac Power users. Can't wait to watch that, as well as he's speaking. So it's going to be a lot of great fun, great food, and great networking. So
yeah, and the thing to remember about MacStock is all of the people that are speaking are very, very accessible. Yes. So if anyone who went to the long now since gone Macworld Expo, you would see these guys up on stage, and then you would never see them again. Yep. But here at MacStock, it's small, it's intimate, and anyone who has been on stage, I can't think of a single one of them that wouldn't stop to talk to you after their presentation is over, to give you tips and tricks and all the rest of that on whatever it was they were talking about.
A lot of new speakers. A lot of new speakers this year, so come check it out. Click the link. If you want, I have a link to where you can buy your tickets today. And if you use my code, I have an offer code. My offer code is INTOUCH, and you will save $10 off the early bird price, which is already dirt cheap. I'll put down $169 for a 2-day event, and Just come on.
Actually, 2.5 days because you got Friday night too.
Oh yeah, well, we're going to have even events before that we got planned. So there's that's to come. So we got a lot planned. So come on, see us. With that, let's we're almost near our wrap up here, Guy. Tell everybody how they can get a hold of you and find you and what you do. And I have it all in the notes, but yeah. Go ahead and tell us.
Well, I avoid the men in the shiny white coats, but
so.
you can reach me. I have an email address. Naturally, it is guy@mymac.com. I do a couple of different podcasts. I do the mymac.com podcast with the Gaz of the Maz for over 10 years now. I do kind of an odd little show where I record in my car. It's called Guy's Daily Drive, but I don't do it every day. Okay. I do drive every day, but I don't do that show every day. And of course, I also do the Mac to the Future live cast typically with Dave and Warren Sklar.
Yep.
Facebook at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Usually. The last couple of weeks have been kind of shady. You know, we had some technical issues, but we got through it. We got through it last night. But it's so much fun. I have such a great time doing it. And you can usually find all the stuff that I do over on my website, which is very oddly named vertshark.com, VERTSHARK. And there is a story, but I'm not going to tell it now. So there.
Nope. It's all in the show notes. So, all right, that's a wrap for this week. Please send your comments, questions, and suggestions to our email address at feedback@intouchwithios.com. You can follow us on Twitter at intouchwithios. You can subscribe in your favorite podcatcher, including Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, Spotify, and TuneIn Radio. Or better yet, go to our website at intouchwithios.com, where all the links to listen are on that page. I am Dave Ginsburg, and you can find me on Twitter at DaveG65. Again, Guy, thanks for being here.
You're very welcome. I always have a good time.
Appreciate you being here. Great show, and thanks for listening. And we'll talk to you soon.